All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for our inaugural first podcast episode. My name is Brackett, and I have with me
Cat.
Cat. Brackett and Cat here joining you, trying to spread a message of entertainment, redemption, happiness, caring, good vibes all around. Who are we? Well, we are a couple of California residences. I know that comes with it a little bit of baggage and prejudice. Yes, we are California natives. We are California residences close to the San Francisco Bay Area. Jeez, you'd never know that I'd lived here most of my life. And yes, the liberals and leftists are just as nuts as you think they are, but they don't rule the entire state. The urban centers, which are very population dense, do have more than their fair share of nut bars, but we don't simply live near the inner part of the Bay Area. We also live in the outer parts of the Bay, where you have a lot of based, regular folks, self-sufficient, good-hearted, asks for nothing but gives plenty of respect, and if you're in trouble, will come to your aid, regardless of who you are or anything that someone might consider prejudicial, because everybody here is just good folk. So we live in California, and we are experiencing hard times right now. Of course, we're 6 months into coronavirus. We've got the post-George Floyd overdose / knee on the neck situation, which has caused cities across the U.S., including municipalities within the Bay Area, to just explode with violence. Protesting, they call it. Okay.
Rioting.
Rioting, others call it. I've heard people succinctly call it destruction of Western civilization, and that seems to be a more appropriate descriptor. And on top of this, we have the California summer heat, which honestly I don't think is. I mean, they talk about 130 degrees in Death Valley, and yes, those are impressive numbers. But California is a very dry state. Unless you live in these wonderful little microclimate areas like the Bay Area itself, which enjoys, a very cool weather coming off the marine layer. Yeah, it is really, really hot, but it's a dry heat, and I know that seems like a cliche, but that counts for something. Not too long ago, I went to Chicago visiting, because Chicago is an amazing city. Well, not so amazing these days, and I'm sure there's video that shows that. But it was merely 85 degrees at high humidity. I honestly contemplated suicide. It was the worst. So, you Southern folk, East Coasters, California's heat is a pleasant heat because it is so dry. Okay, I'm going to stop talking about the weather now. So, why are we off screen? And why are you looking at a black screen right now? A couple of reasons. We live in California, which does have its fair share of nut bars, as I mentioned earlier. And those nutty people, they are in positions of some serious power and authority. And they can non-person you at the snap of a finger. All of a sudden, you get your walk-in papers. And most of us in labor, we tend to sign these contracts which are at will, which means you can walk for whatever reason, and they can shit-can you for whatever reason. And if they don't like your politics, that's how they get you. Because even labor even management gets to defend itself against pernicious, evil, manipulative workers. But generally, they have been known to use it to just axe people from their jobs just because something went wrong on Twitter, social media, got a bad look. So that is why we are maintaining our anonymity. And plus, a lot of the message that one of us or the other is going to be spreading is probably not going to jive with a lot of people. A lot of people are going to think that because we have a sense of ourselves, a sense of caring for our culture, our sense of Americanism, and our and other unchangeable reasons, that we may have a negative outlook on others and others of a different way. And that is simply not the case. However, when has that stopped anyone from trying to harm the well-being of another? The answer is almost never. If they have a reason for not liking you because you say something that they don't like, they will let you know by making sure that you can't provide for yourself or your family, all the way up to being able to harm you and make sure that you don't even have the right to defend yourself. So we are trying to insulate ourselves, me and Kat and I, and simply be here. Now, as to the black screen, we could show you something, but we're trying to make things nice and easy. Plus, a lot of you aren't getting the premium YouTube edition, which means if you guys are listening to your podcast, like I've done, like I do, listening to podcasts on YouTube, you let the screen be on and in your pocket because you have to pay the subscription fee in order to have your YouTube be on, but with the screen off. And so it might as well be a blank screen that doesn't necessarily burn out your battery. So this is a pretty simple podcast. We're just here to talk at you, take your mind off your day. Something to let you know that everything is all right.
That you're not alone.
You're not alone. That there are people out there that think as you do. We have shared values, a shared collective comprehension, a shared history, culture, and that we are a great people. And we don't have to be a perfect people. I've heard it said that perfection is the enemy of good. And you can be great without being perfect. Okay. We are pretty across the board when it comes to our values. Now, it's kind of odd to live in such a liberal state that countenances so much indulgence in other people. We look at the plight of the homosexual, of gay people and gay culture, and it totally jives with our libertarian values to let people be themselves. We want people to be themselves, and if there is an unchangeable quality, like being gay, that drives them to feel a sense of attraction, sexual or loving, towards a human being of the same consenting age, then of course that is perfectly legitimate. And it doesn't mean we're bad people if we see a couple of bearded gay dudes kissing each other and we go, eesh. And that's why we are not perfect and they are not perfect, but we all have to get along and care for each other. But our values sort of strive between conservatism, libertarianism, and outright liberalness, a classic liberalness from back in the 80s and 90s when those liberals used freedom of speech and indulgence and acceptance to break the power of the Christian conservativeness that had a pretty strong hold on American politics and the American social space. And we don't know exactly where we stand on a lot of these issues because we don't want to be authoritarian, tell people of faith that their positions are bad. Frankly, if someone doesn't feel they want to be at a pride rally, I know I don't want to be anywhere near one. They promote a sexual theme that is incredibly inappropriate for a public space like that. But on the other hand, in your own home, I want you to have all the fun, wild stuff that you want, so long as we insulate those who do not have the ability or right to consent to certain things, that we insulate them from these influences. And I don't think that's too much to ask. I think that there's plenty of space, both politically and socially and physically, for all of us to have what we need. And so that's why we tend to run the gamut between liberal and conservative and libertarian. So politically, Kat and I here, we're kind of a little bit all over the board, but we do tend to feel that a more stable calm and conservative public space or shared space, shared culture is desirable. Now, spiritually, once again, our cultural influences here in California, the fact that we lived in a polyglot, polyethnic, poly-religious superculture, nothing super about it, trust me, but just super as in superstructure super. We've come to see things as more of a spiritual, more of a personal choice, less of a drawn cultural experience with which we share with other members of our community. And part of that is because California is so large and so spacious. You really have to make your own. You have to make your own people out here. Sometimes you're born into something, but there's so much turnover and transientness, people moving out, moving in, that all of a sudden you look out your window and 5 years later you don't recognize anyone. And as a result, when it comes to our beliefs in the spiritual, the strong religious doctrines have less of a force over us. I know that Kat here doesn't just wants to, just enjoys the spirit of Jesus' words. Doesn't like, you don't enjoy the power.
Yeah, I've never been a fan of organized religion, and a lot of that stems from me growing up. I grew up in a family where part of my extended family was Protestant, part of it was Southern Baptist, and part of it was Catholic. And all of those religions say that if you don't abide by their religion, then you're going to hell. So they're literally saying that 2/3 of my family is going to hell. And I've never seen anything in the Bible say that. But at the same time, I also believe that our God is a loving God, and he would never want anybody to feel like they have to pick and choose which of their family members are going to hell or going for salvation. So that's why I'm a firm believer in God and in Jesus, but I am a firm disbeliever in organized religion.
Very well said. I'm sure there's a joke that could be made here about how, oh yeah, well, which 2/3 of my family goes to hell? Let me think about it. I mean, that's funny and all, but it strikes me as an anti-family kind of a joke to propagate, because we shouldn't want anybody, even the ones we have arguments with. We shouldn't joke about places like eternal damnation. But what are you going to do? We are coming towards the 15-minute mark, folks. We are a brand new podcast, so we are going to stone skip from one video to the next, keep it under the 15-minute mark. So thank you for staying us for the first 14 minutes here, and we're going to pop off and pop right back on to the next video. Be right back.